Chairmans, Janikowski and Rivera, and commissioners, welcome to the first full meeting of the Rechartered Diversity Advisory Committee. I understand that a number of phone meetings have already been held by the chairs of the working groups. Thank you very much. You have before you a blue folder with today's agenda, email contact information, and slides of today's presentations. All of this material was previously emailed to you. Also, if you wouldn't mind, please sign one of the yellow sheets so I can accurately record who attended today's meeting in person. I also know we have several people on the phone, and we'll get those names shortly. I look forward to working with all of you during the next year and helping you tackle the very difficult issues surrounding channels 5 and 6, Wi-Fi, and EEO in the media. And with that, I will turn the proceedings over to Chairman Rivera.
Thank you. Thank you, Barbara. And for those of you who don't know, this is our designated federal officer, and we'll get into more of the mechanics and details after the chairman and commissioners speak. They've got some tight schedules, so obviously they're welcome to stay for the proceedings, but we know they've got other things to do. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chairman Janikowski, and thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, for joining us today.
Well, thank you. First of all, Henry, thank you for signing up and re-signing up to take this on. It's an incredibly important committee with a very long list of challenges, and we just appreciate greatly your service in so many different ways. I know this is only one of the things that you do. I do want to, before talking about this group, I want to acknowledge and thank my colleagues, Mike Copps and Rob McDowell, for being here. I'm not sure what it means that we have a quorum, other than that anything can happen at this meeting. This is not the first meeting of the Diversity Committee that I've been at, and I think it's the case that a majority, if not all the commissioners have been at, well, there's been at least more than one commissioner at each meeting, and I think all of us have come to as many of these as we can because we regard this as so important. I want to thank each of you for agreeing to participate in this committee. I see so many people around the room, friends and colleagues and people who've devoted very long careers to this. I hesitate to single out any one person, but I do want to acknowledge Reverend Jackson, who's here, and thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to be here in person as part of this committee. We appreciate it. Let me say one thing to this group before I say a few other things. It's a big deal that you decide to join a committee like this. It is a form of public service that's very meaningful. It helps the commission. It helps the issues we all care about. You're taking time out of your work, other things that you could be doing, and the first thing I want to say is that we value that, we appreciate that, we recognize that it's a big deal, and we understand that it places on us at the FCC an obligation to take seriously the work that goes on here. And we do that in two ways. One is by making sure that we have great staff working on this, helping the chairman and others here organize this very large group into something that can function and really make progress. And so Barbara Kreisman and the other members of the FCC staff who work hard at this, one, what you're doing is very important, and two, we thank you for doing this. And the other obligation it places is on all of us at the Commission to take seriously what this group comes up with. We do, and we will. Let me see, in addition to Barbara Kreisman, I do want to acknowledge our head of OCBO, Tom Reed. I don't know if Tom is here. Tom is here, great. Who has been working tirelessly at these issues, running our Office of Communication Business Opportunities. The mission that I charged Tom with when he started here 2.5 years ago was to make sure that this office was focusing on the opportunities and the challenges of today and tomorrow, not yesterday. and we appreciate your work, Tom, in doing that. Carolyn Williams, I think, is also here. We appreciate the work that Carolyn does as deputy of OCPO. We have a new deputy federal officer. Henry will explain the federal officer mechanism. Nicole McGinnis is taking on this role. Where is Nicole? Great. Nicole, thank you so much for taking on this role. Nicole comes to this from the Wireless Bureau, and as I've now warned you, it is serious work that we expect to fulfill the promise of this group. At the onset, I want to say that while this committee's charter expires in December 2012, I think we can all agree that 1 year isn't enough time to do what we'd really like this committee to do. And so I'm pleased to announce right now that our plan is to recharter this committee as soon as the rules allow, reappoint committee members so that you're given significant uninterrupted time to make meaningful progress in the work of this committee. Now, it's our mission here at the FCC to make sure that all Americans have access to robust communications infrastructure. This mission of inclusion is central to the FCC's work. It's central to our charter, the Communications Act. It's vital that every American have access to all forms of communications technology so they can meet their critical information needs, from health to emergency preparedness to job and educational opportunity. This commitment to all Americans is at the heart of what diversity means. All Americans, whatever their background, wherever they live, whatever their circumstances, inclusion. We recognize that each individual and each group accesses critical information in different ways. It is this committee's mission to help the Commission meet the vital goal of inclusion and diversity. Each of you brings a unique perspective to the mission of inclusion. We look forward to benefiting from the dynamism of your collaboration, which will flow out of the great mix of experiences and backgrounds that we have on this committee. Now, we all know some of the major challenges that we face when it comes to diversity. For starters, we can take the issue of broadband adoption. Right now, as you all know, 100 million Americans, nearly a third of the country, don't have high-speed internet at home. So it's about a 68% adoption rate in the United States. It compares to 90% in South Korea and Singapore. That 60% adoption rate, that average, it's lower, as you know, significantly lower for members of minority communities, seniors, people with disabilities, rural Americans. This is a major challenge, particularly as broadband moves. Indeed, it has moved from a luxury to a necessity. Many of you have heard me say this, but it's true, and I want this to be part of what the Diversity Committee works on. Used to be that if you were looking for a job and you didn't have access to the internet, it was okay. It's not true anymore. 80% of job postings from our major companies are online only, and increasingly require online applications. So if you don't have access to the internet, you can't find a job. If you don't have basic digital skills, you're not eligible for a job. This is a major diversity issues. I think that Commissioner Copps has called this one of the major civil rights issues of our time, and I agree with that. As you know, this is something that not only the Diversity Committee, but at the Commission, we've been working on. I'm pleased that we were able to announce over the last couple of months the Connect to Compete initiative. Many of the people in the room are involved in this, but a low-cost $9.95 broadband plan will be rolled out over the coming months to almost every family in the country with kids on school lunch programs. It's a big deal. Digital literacy initiatives to help close the digital literacy gap will be rolled out. We have companies like Microsoft, Best Buy, and others making significant commitments. Many of the community-based organizations who are here are participating in it. We want to do this in a way where we take seriously metrics tracking from the beginning. This has enormous opportunity standing alone, and it also can help inform the Commission's work as we look to programs like Lifeline, E-Rate, the other programs that we have, and think about how can these assets, programs, be best utilized to address inclusion issues in the 21st century. OCPO continues to do tremendous work. You'll be hearing from Tom a little bit later this afternoon, so I don't want to steal his thunder. I do want to mention that this Thursday, OCPO will host its third annual Capital Strategies Workshop. Many of you have been involved in this, but you know that through seminars and one-on-one interviews, OCPO has helped and will continue to help connect entrepreneurs from minority and other communities with financial experts who make daily decisions about capital infusion. On January 4th, OCPO and the Media Bureau will host a summit on equal employment opportunity best practices. This is a very important issue, and the summit will examine how viewpoint diversity is being advanced by the media industry's most conscientious participants. On February 15th, OCPO will be co-hosting a broadband training event with SBA and SCORE for small and diverse businesses in Prince George's counties. This flows out of something that, with Tom's help, we were able to launch about a year and a half ago now, which is a partnership with the Small Business Administration to take this extraordinary army of people they have out in communities all over the country and help make sure that those SCORE agents are themselves trained in and around broadband so that they can bring the opportunities of broadband to small businesses around the country. Later in the year, OCPO will convene a supplier diversity conference, which will focus on how small and diverse businesses can find supplier opportunities with larger communications companies. The genesis of ideas like Connect to Compete and many of the projects spearheaded by OCPO started in conversations just like this one, in truth, with many of the people in this room. Ideas have power, ideas have meaning. The staff of this agency and all the commissioners are focused on how do we take ideas that will really work and that will advance the core mission of diversity and inclusion in the real world with its real challenges. How can we increase the representation of women and minorities in broadcast and media ownership? How can we create greater opportunity through legally sustainable policy initiatives? What unexpected impacts are new technologies having on diverse communities? Are new opportunities easily accessible to diverse communities? We know the answer to that final question is no today, and I know there isn't a single dissenter in this group that we can't accept that answer as a permanent reality. So I challenge each of you here to think creatively about ways that together we can meet the needs of all Americans. And I look forward, as we all do, to incorporating what you develop into our work. Again, thank you, Henry, for taking on this challenge. Thank you to each of the members of the Diversity Committee. Thank you to my colleagues on the Commission. Thank you to Barbara Kreisman. Let me conclude by noting that today is an important day because Commissioner Copps has tendered his a letter of resignation. The letter itself, which I really encourage you to read, is consistent with Commissioner Mike Copps' incredible career. The letter itself is inspiring and will move people to action. And so I didn't want to let this moment go without acknowledging that fact. It makes this day an important day in history, in many ways a sad day for those of us who've been lucky enough to work with you, but also a day on which we renew our commitment to the issues that you fought for so many years. So thank you, Mike Copps.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for those kind words and for those words of challenge. Also, can't let the opportunity go by to thank you for stepping up and dealing with the charter issue. I think it was on a lot of people's minds, and I think you've put our minds to rest on that issue, so thank you. And secondly, I have to congratulate you for the Connect to Compete initiative. For all the people in this room, that is something that is going to affect a lot of the people and issues that we care very deeply about. So congratulations to you for your leadership on that. I think it's a terrific initiative, and I think it's got a lot of potential to help our folks. So thank you. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Topps, would you care to address the...
Go down the line here, Rob.
All right, well... You guys sort it out.
Thank you very much, Henry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your very kind and your very generous and overly generous words. I'm starting to get a little wistful here, and remorseful, I guess. I don't know. Anyhow, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. As the chairman said, this is a critically important committee. You all have taken time from what I know is our arduous schedules. You've got a lot of work to do. You've got 2 years of work to do in 1 year, although I'm very encouraged by the chairman's announcement that the committee will be re-upped so there can be some element of continuity in an issue area where there certainly has to be continuity. I think we've got some good news to think about and some bad news to talk about too. A lot of good things have happened as a result, I think, of some of this committee's recommendations, Henry's sterling leadership of this committee over the years, and goodness knows, I don't think there's anybody who has dedicated more of his time and life and principles and ideals to advancing the agenda before this committee than Henry Rivera, so I'm delighted he is chairman once again. But I think, as the chairman says, the commission is more alive to the importance of this issue, to the need to include everybody, to make sure we don't go through all these broadband exercises and end up with digital gaps that are actually worse than they were before we began, and that remains a possibility, that we really have a feel for the hurt and the want and the aspirations and the desire for opportunity and the absence of so many opportunities that are out there, and that this committee can help redress. So we've got a national broadband strategy now with a strong emphasis on inclusion for minorities and women and people with disabilities and lots of other important fellow citizens. We've made some progress on the open internet, which I continue to think is vitally important for the inclusion of diversity communities. We've got some specifics with no urban Spanish dictates. We've got the Connect to Compete, which I think is good. The list goes on. And that's all good. But so much remains to be done, and we still haven't really made a dent in the bottom line statistics of minority and female ownership of our broadcast properties, or representation just in the communications world generally. And I know of no higher priority that exists for this commission than to do something about that. So I'm glad that we are here and united and determined to do something about it. I remember coming down here in 2003 at the inaugural committee of the Diversity Committee back then. And I mentioned that when I was at the Department of Commerce, I had oversight of all the advisory committees that existed over there, and there were a lot of them. And this is what I said to this group in 2003. I can give you from my experience at Commerce one or two of the ingredients in the recipe for advisory committee success. A successful committee develops its own list of priorities. It formulates a plan for action and deliverables. It takes some early votes, not just to keep itself viable, but to impart a sense of purpose and direction. It thinks creatively and acts aggressively to push the Commission to take steps to advance diversity across our communications sector. The committees which achieve most success demand attention, they work toward early action, and sometimes they're even a little bit of a thorn in the side. They think both broadly and with focus, understanding that the broad policy background is fair hunting ground, just as taking smaller steps is important too. With a problem this rampant, we need action at the 40,000-foot policy level and also right on the ground. I welcome the sense of direction and the issues that I know you will be contemplating and discussing in the months ahead. But I also just want to reemphasize the point that this is really a wonderful cross-section of communities with a lot of experience, a lot of intelligence, a lot of different ideas, and I just encourage you to think broadly and work from the sense of priorities that I think probably exists around the table here. We've got a lot of work to do. We've got to complete amassing the data we need to take really transcendental steps in things like media ownership, complete the so-called Adirondack studies, get the census. Meanwhile, there are steps that can be taken. We've got lots of good suggestions from this diversity committee over the years. I'm thinking particularly we have a proposal for incubator that I think is very creative. We have the if you want to talk about a down payment, while longer, more transformative steps are contemplated, we've got that overcoming disadvantages. And there was an interesting article in the New York Times just the other day, which December 2nd, maybe some of you saw, was that Saturday. U.S. urges creativity by colleges to gain diversity. The Obama administration on Friday urged colleges and universities to get creative in improving racial diversity at their campuses, throwing out a Bush-era interpretation of recent Supreme Court rulings that limited affirmative action and admissions. The new guidelines replaced a 2008 document that essentially warned colleges and universities against considering race at all. Instead, the guidelines focus on the wiggle room in the court decisions involving the University of Michigan, suggesting that institutions use other criteria: student socioeconomic profiles, residential instability, listen to this one, the hardships they have overcome that are often proxies for race. Very interesting article, and I cite it here only to underscore really the need for being a little bit pushy to resolve these problems. They're not going to get resolved with the counsel of cautions that previous commissions brought to these issues. It demands much more, and I'm hopeful that they are receiving much more right now. I will miss my appearances before the committee, but I'm not going away. I'm certainly not going to stop talking about these issues, not stop trying to make a difference. I think our hour is now. The opportunity may not be the best conceivable one in the world, but it's the best one we're probably going to have. It's the time to strike is now. The time to make progress is now, so that we can really take these opportunity-creating technologies that are available to us and the innovation and the entrepreneurship and really turn them into tools that can set people free and create opportunity all across this land. And if we don't do that, we will have failed not only the technologies of broadband and failed the technologies of the digital era, we'll have failed ourselves too, and I don't think we can allow that to happen. So I commend you all again and thank you for agreeing to serve, and I look forward to continuing the friendships I've developed with many people around this table and to talking about these issues and lending whatever small helping hand that I can do in the months and years ahead. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Commissioner. We certainly appreciate your words of encouragement and enlightenment. We congratulate you on your stellar public service career, and we are sure going to miss you. We really are. We hope you come back to see us as we meet in the future. You're always welcome. So thank you again. Commissioner Clyburn has joined us. Welcome, Commissioner. We're so glad to see you. And Commissioner McDowell, would you please address the group?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Henry. And I have not read Mike Kopp's letter. I'm still in denial. And so there will be plenty of opportunity for goodbyes, which I'm terrible at. I'm going to get very emotional, I'm sure, when I have to deliver a few of them. So we'll just continue living in the state of denial for a little while longer because it's a more comfortable place. But I am delighted that the Diversity Committee is finally meeting. I do want to thank each and every one of you. This is a stellar group, very talented, some veterans and some new, fresh perspectives as well. And you're all going to add a great deal of value. And I do want to recognize everybody that Chairman Rivera recognized earlier by reference. And I want to thank Henry again for chairing it, and for Barbara for doing so much hard work on this important issue. The last time the Diversity Committee met was December the 2nd, 2010, more than a year ago. But the delay in announcing the members and convening the rechartered committee, which of course I have spoken out about many times, it should not be taken as an indication of this committee's relevance and worth. I cannot really overemphasize the vital importance of this committee's work to the Commission and to the public. I hope that next year, with your recommendations, the Commission will be able to promote policies that enhance the ability of all Americans, particularly women and minorities, to participate in the communications industry at all levels, as owners, managers, employees, and in many other roles. In fact, the influence of this committee extends well beyond this building. Not only do the suggestions made by this group affect the rules adopted by the Commission, but your recommendations have also prompted industry to take voluntary action. For instance, the American Association of Advertising Agencies, also known as the 4As, has developed and circulated to its members an advertising non-discrimination policy framework to end the practice of so-called no urban, no Hispanic dictates. This is an issue that as soon as I got to the Commission, I was alarmed the more I learned. My naivete at first said this must be something that's only operates in theory, and then the facts bore out otherwise. So I was very proud in December of 2007 to be able to vote out that item, and I'm also delighted that it withstood the appeal, the Third Circuit's decision. But in any case, having industry step up in this way will help eradicate this absolutely despicable practice. And this is an industry that we don't regulate, the advertising industry. And just this morning I was informed by Sherman that many of the CEOs of the largest advertising agencies in America have signed pledges to implement the 4A's non-discrimination policy. And these agencies, according to Sherman, control about 7 out of 10 dollars spent on advertising. And there are more to be signed up, and I'm happy to help twist arms, literally, no, I'm just kidding, if necessary to get that done. But this achievement is highly significant, and I'd like to thank Sherman for your tireless efforts. And Sherman has more ideas to offer, I know, today, and I hope everyone here will be interested, and I hope members of the media who are covering this will report on what he has to say, and I want to help him in every regard. As you may know, many of the other diversity provisions adopted in the 2007 order were struck down by the Third Circuit in the Prometheus II decision. The court's decision makes the work that you will undertake especially significant and timely. I hope this committee will actively engage on the myriad of proposals to enhance media diversity that have been considered in the past and that may be introduced in the future. All suggestions need to be fully evaluated. We could use your help and your invaluable expertise in determining which policies will be the most effective and the most practicable. Of course, as Commissioner Kopp's raised, any actions the Commission would take in this area must also be legally sustainable and satisfy the rigorous demands of the Equal Protection Clause as interpreted by the Supreme Court in the Adirond line of cases. And while I'm at it, I would like to reiterate that the diversity studies should be completed as soon as possible to assist us in supporting any new regulations and determining the best approaches to increasing diversity. But the legal sustainability is a very important issue. It's just a practical reality. We can have the highest of hopes and dreams and implement them in the most aggressive way and push that envelope. But if we get turned back by an appellate court, we've lost years, maybe decades. So what we do has to pass that legal muster. We pushed that envelope with the 2007 diversity order. I was proud that that was a unanimous vote and proud to be part of that. But of course we got rolled back by the court in many areas. And that's discouraging, but don't let it discourage you any further than this moment. Continue to be persistent. I've had the pleasure of working with several members of this committee over the years, and I look forward to working with all of you in the weeks and months to come. I hope we can make some major progress, have direct, tangible results in the new year. We don't have a lot of time, so instead of just hearing me blather on, get to work, and thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. We appreciate your being here, and we appreciate your remarks. Commissioner Clyburn, would you like to address the group?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. A good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. Southern, right, you've been raised right. Thank you. I am very pleased to meet so many new friends and to say hello to so many old friends, you know who you are, here this afternoon. I wish to also join in with others in thanking Tom Reed and Barbara Kreisman for the stewardship of this committee and all of the time that they will continue to devote to its efforts. And Chairman Rivera, whose leadership has been so vital in the past and will be even more so as this committee tackles some pretty weighty issues going forward. Thank you for your commitment to this commission and to this committee's goals. And I want to, again, congratulate all of you. Your commitment to diversity in the media space and in telecommunications is what brought you here, and I wish to congratulate you all on your selection. This committee has been crucial to the development and vetting of issues that mean a great deal to me and this nation. And as I've said on countless occasions, we should not be content until there is significant improvement in the communications space when it comes to communities that are underrepresented, namely communities of color and women. This committee has had a great track record when it has come to addressing these concerns. You have assisted us in launching a web tool complete with studies, research, and programs that serve as a diversity resource to assist companies with their diversity efforts and for assistance in creating programs that will enhance development of those companies' workforces. This committee passed a resolution urging the FCC to explore possible ways to foster ownership diversity in the commercial FM radio band and implored us to issue a policy statement that divestiture remedies should be fashioned to promote practical opportunities for small businesses, women and minorities to own and operate media and telecommunications services. You have formulated a proposal that would serve as an amendment to the designated entity rules and would adopt and implement additional new preference programs for individuals who are otherwise qualified for an FCC license, but who have faced substantial disadvantages and who have since overcome those disadvantages. And this committee has recommended outreach efforts to proactively seek to increase awareness of the benefits and leading to investing in minority and women in the broadcasting industry. Many of you have been vocal and helpful in advising me in my office on diversity improvements and tweaks regarding our media ownership rules. I hope you will continue your advocacy on this and supply us with any data that will be useful. As you know, we currently lack crucial data that will aid us in fully assessing the media ownership landscape as it relates to women and minorities. I have reviewed the presentations that will be shown today and applaud the companies for their efforts. I hope they will not only press forward, but break new ground. I hope they will be able to claim innumerable firsts in terms of diverse faces in senior positions, as that will definitely get my attention and that of others in this room. I also want to note that public-private partnerships and the extent to which they can increase diversity is essential, and I appreciate industry commitment to this committee. I also look forward to working with individual companies and plan to keep working with them to improve policies and practices, including outreach, recruitment, and advancement. I will be looking forward to hearing more ideas from you to suggest to the chairman to pass along to this committee. I am hoping you will share ideas with me also, so that I may learn more about issues that are pressing to you and those issues which you think I, as an individual commissioner and this agency, needs to review. I will be speaking with the chairman about the business of this committee and will raise any further concerns and potential topics for this commission or committee to consider. This I promise you. Thus, I want you to know that you have an open door to my office should you want to discuss any of the above or even more. So I'm excited about today, and I'm excited about the chair's announcement to expand this committee's footprint, so to speak. But let's just go on that 1 year. Just look at 1 year. We officially have 1 year remaining in this committee's term, so we technically have a short window to get a lot of things done. I look forward to working with you. I look forward to the task forces concentrating on channels 5 and 6, Wi-Fi technology, EEO enforcement, and other pressing issues which will improve the communications landscape for years to come. And again, I commit to you, Mr. Chairman, and the members of the committee that I will be a partner in this process. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your support, Commissioner, and thank you for the invitation to visit your office. We may do that. All right. I would be remiss if I did not extend to Reverend Jackson an opportunity to address the group, talk about someone who has dedicated his entire career to the issues that we care very deeply about. And we're very pleased that he's joined us today. And I'm springing this on him. I didn't. He didn't have a. He didn't have an opportunity to prepare. But Reverend Jackson, if you've got anything to say to the group, we'd love to hear you, sir.
Thank you very much. How's everybody?
Hi.
I certainly want to express my thanks for the opportunity to share with you. And I really think all of us should give a real round of applause. Commissioner Copps, you've done a great job. We thank you so much. Well, I want to repeat again, Rainbow Push has its annual Wall Street Summit Conference in New York, 25 through 27 of January. Trying to work out some details with David, little collision there. On that night, we want to have a major town hall meeting, 25th, on media ownership. Our contention is the same, Mr. Chairman, that too few own too much, and we're losing ground. The basic premise of carving out, they used to call it affirmative action, equal opportunity, has been replaced with monopoly. Contract compliance is not really being enforced. On the spectrum, there's more monopoly than shared ownership. We understand inclusion in Iraq. We will not let the Shiites monopolize. It must be shared Shiites as soon as encouraged. We understand carving out in Iraq. In South Africa, the deal was not consummated until the whites were carved out and protected. It could not be a black monopoly at the expense of white citizens. We understand carve-out in South Africa. We seem not to understand it at home, and we must. We must have renewed commitment and occupy this inequality gap on shared ownership. One of the first things that Mr. Gingrich did when he made his move in '94 was to remove the tax certificate to assure, if you will, no more Bob Johnson, no more Kathy Hughes and the like. And so we've been steadily losing ground, and we must regain that ground for all the right reasons to participate. And so we want to talk more about shared ownership. I want to talk really more about the lifeline. There's a growing body of people as poverty increases. More and more people are denied access to the lifeline, to connectivity and to speed. It hinders their growth and their development. Likewise, concerned a lot about the growing impact of the cost of phones in the prison system, where the least able people have to pay the most for the least access. These basic themes, we'll talk about that and more at our conference in New York. And I look forward to commissioners being present. You certainly are being invited to such a session. But I want to thank the persons here on this committee who represent such a diverse and broad-based interest in communications. I can only say again, sir, that as we look at broadband or wireless, too few own too much. I look at Spectrum, and a handful of companies own 80+% of the spectrum. That's not fair, and that means the law is not being enforced. Every data that comes out shows that blacks and Latinos and Native Americans and women are being pushed out again because somehow we've lost the impetus for inclusion, and we must regain it, and whenever it's required, with your help. And I hope that the Commission considers this not as a protest, but as a patriotic act. We did not know how good baseball could be until everybody could play. We don't know how good media can be until all of us can play and be a part of. There'll be a lot of, as I close bowl games the next few days, from LSU and Alabama on the cross. And why can these kids do so well together and become so exceptional, where we choose uniform color over skin color and direction over complexion? It's because no matter what the background may be, whenever the playing field is even and the rules are public and the goals are clear, the referee is fair and the score is transparent, we do pretty well. But in this media business, the playing field not even. If on the football field, if some people had to run 13 yards for a first down and others inherited some yards, we wouldn't do so well. We want an even playing field. We want an even opportunity. We do not have that, and increasingly we feel that we're having to run further just to score and with less resources. And I would hope that the Commission would see that what's best about America is that we do not guarantee success, but we guarantee opportunity. And more opportunities being denied and being pushed in the shadows. And we all want to be a part of that sunlight. So again, thank you, and we want to look forward more to being able to measure a year from now, not just measure reports, but measure ownership, measure our share of spectrum, measure our share of lifeline, measure our share of communications, connectivity. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Reverend. We appreciate your being here, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Do you want to take roll?
I think we'll just ask quickly, who's on the phone, since you're not here to sign. Everybody else, please sign one of the yellow attendance sheets. There's about 3 of them going around. Anyone on the phone?
Chanel Anita Graham. Urban League.
Okay. We got Anita.
Rudy Brochet with Comcast.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
That's Rudy.
Rudy? Oh, Rudy. Got you.
With Comcast.
Chanel Hardy, National Urban League.
Chanel, okay.
Maxie Jackson, NFCB, National Federation Community Broadcasters.
Great. Anyone else?
Walter Ulloa, Intervision Communications.
Anyone else? Great, thank you all very much.
Thank you. I think we ought to go around the table and introduce ourselves, and if you could also indicate where you work, that would be very useful. So, Carolyn, do you want to start?
Good afternoon. My name is Carolyn Fleming Williams. I'm Senior Deputy Director of OSPA.
I'm Nicole McGinnis. I'm with the Spectrum Policy and Competition Division in the Wireless Bureau.
Hi, I'm Steve Roberts, president of Roberts Broadcasting. I'm one of the few African-American broadcasters left in this country. We have built 15 over the last 20-year stations, and both TV and radio, and we still have 4. But I would tell you, as I was sharing with some of the staff, 20 years ago when we started this business, there were probably 20 African-American station owners in this country. Today there are 4, and we own the majority of those stations. So we've got a lot of work, Mr. Chairman, to do. So I'm glad to be here, and you'll hear more about our experiences. Thank you.
Maria Brennan, President and CEO of Women in Cable Telecommunications.
Good afternoon. Thomas Reed, Director of OCBO.
Hey, Chukma, Jeffrey Blackwell. I am the Chief of the FCC's Office of Native Affairs and Policy.
Nicole Turner-Lee. I am Vice President, Director at the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies, and I'm the first director, actually, of the Media and Technology Institute at the Joint Center.
David Honig, President of MMTC.
Jorge Chiment, Dean of the School of Communication and Information at Rutgers University.
Bob Mendez, the Walt Disney Company, and Senior Vice President of Diversity for the Disney ABC Television Group.
Bill Branham, 21st Century Telecommunications. We're purchasing the first television station in South Georgia in the United States.
Sydney Shaw, the President of the Asian American Chamber of Commerce.
I'm Celia Nogales, and I'm with AT&T.
I'm Charles Harrell II, the President of the Information Technology Architect Corporation.
Jim Winston, Executive Director of the National Association of Black-Owned Broadcasters. And I just want to say that I'm thrilled to see Steve Roberts here. His brother Mike Roberts is a member of the Board of Directors of NABOB, and I'm delighted that he'll be able to talk about the plight of broadcasters from the first-hand perspective. Appreciate seeing you, Steve.
Thank you, Jim. I'm Erin Dozier with the National Association of Broadcasters.
Good afternoon to everyone. I'm Ron Johnson. I own Solutions for Change and also Ronson Network Corporation. We primarily are engaged in building infrastructure in the United States and in Africa. And so it's nice to be a part of the new reconstituted committee. Thank you, Henry.
Andy Schwartzman, Media Access Project.
Jose Marquez, President of Latinos in Information Sciences and Technology Association.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sherman Kizart, Managing Partner, Kizart Media Partners in Chicago. I'm the Sherman that Commissioner McDowell kept referring to earlier, so it's good to be here today.
Hi, I'm Carla Ballard. I'm Chief of Strategic Development and National Partnerships for Media in One Economy Corporation.
Hi, I'm Jason Legria. I'm the Telecommunications and Broadband Policy Staff Attorney at the Asian American Justice Center. On behalf of Karen Arasaki, our President and Executive Director of the AJC, unfortunately, she's in Bali right now, so I'm here for her.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Derek Frost. I'm Senior Vice President of Global IP Video Solutions for Alcatel-Lucent, and I'm also the founder of online video and internet company Envision TV.
Joaquin Alvarado, Senior Vice President for Digital Innovation at American Public Media.
Tony Pettis. I'm President-elect of the National Association of Telecommunications Officers and Advisors, and happy to be here.
Good afternoon. Virgil Smith, Vice President, Talent Acquisition and Diversity for the Gannett Company.
Good afternoon. I'm Donna Epps, Vice President of Federal Affairs for Verizon.
Hi, I'm Eric Broyles. I'm co-founder and CEO of McGree, Inc., which is a social business software company.
Good afternoon. I'm Laura Sand Taylor, President and CEO of Native Public Media, working with the 48 Native-owned public radio stations and 24 on the way.
Good afternoon. I'm Craig Robinson, Executive Vice President and Chief Diversity Officer for NBC Universal, and thank you for your invitation today.
My name is Maria Arias, and I'm the Executive Director of Diversity and Inclusion for Comcast Corporation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Xavier Williams from AT&T, Senior Vice President of Public Sector and Healthcare.
Reverend Jesse Jackson, Occupy FCC. Even the playing field until something happens.org.
I'm Sylvia Strobel. I'm past chair of the Alliance for Women in Media.
I'm Anton Gattano. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the CBS Local Businesses.
I'm Diane Sutter, President and CEO of Shooting Star Broadcasting, owner and operators of radio and TV stations.
Corey Wright, Policy Counsel for Free Press.
Jessica Gonzalez, Vice President of Policy and Legal Affairs for the National Hispanic Media Coalition.
Javier Palomares, President and CEO of the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Barbara Kreisman, I'm also Chief of the Video Division and the Media Bureau of the FCC, and I'm the one who nags you with all those emails.
And Henry Rivera, I'm your chair. So welcome all. It's you're a very distinguished group with, as has already been mentioned by the commissioners, a great deal of expertise and talent, and we'll be drawing on that as we move through our year and move through the various issues that are assigned to us by the commission. So with that, I'd like Tom Reed to, from OCBO, to address the group and tell us a little bit about the operating ground rules and so forth.
Thank you, Henry. I'd like to join the chairman and the commissioners in thanking you for your continued commitment to the commission and in particular to this committee. It's great to have you back, and it's great to have that kind of continuity in this organization. Bear with me, I was really excited to be here, but apparently my voice was not, so I'm going to be struggling a little bit. I'd like to take a second also to recognize our FCC team. Barbara, you know, I think I told the chairman that I wouldn't do this if you weren't coming back as the designated federal officer. So it was slim. That's why we had to make sure that you came back. I'd also like to recognize Carolyn and Nicole. You guys have a great FCC team that's going to be working with you over the course of the coming year, and as the chairman indicated, beyond that. So we're excited to have them aboard. Again, it's a real pleasure to be here to welcome this advisory committee. Obviously, many of you have served before. There are many familiar faces. Welcome back. There are many new faces. I welcome you and look forward to working with you all. I'm looking forward to the energy and the collaborative spirit that this committee always brings. You know, we're very anxious to get started. It is our job at the FCC to create policy that promotes a diversity of voices over the airwaves, to create policy that opens up opportunities for all Americans to participate and benefit from a robust communications infrastructure. Again, I'm director of OCBO, and OCBO's role at the agency is that we're a lead policy advisor to the chairman and the commissioners on agency action and rulemakings that impact the competitive interests of small and diverse businesses. We also assist small businesses, as the chairman indicated, with access to capital. We're having our third annual conference on Thursday, so you're all welcome to be there. I know some of you have indicated that you will be, so we're excited to have you there. We also try to connect our constituents with access to information, the kind of information that allows them to navigate the FCC process. In addition to that, we attempt to connect our constituents to the kind of relationships that will give them greater competitive advantage in a larger communications marketplace. The mission of the Advisory Committee on Diversity is to assist and strengthen the FCC's diversity agenda, to examine policies and practices that will further enhance the ability of minorities and women to participate in communications and related industries. I know we all long for the day when committees like this one are no longer needed, but unfortunately today is not that day. Women and minorities continue to be underrepresented as owners in broadcast and other media. Minority communities continue to trail in adopting new empowering technologies. There's obviously so much more for us to do, So I thank you all for your continuing commitment to the interests of diverse communities and for the time and energy you will devote to the work of this committee over and above the incredible commitments you already make to your companies and organizations. At the risk of overusing a phrase, we've brought you here and we've brought together an incredibly diverse group of experts representing broadcasters, new media and social media technology, public and civil rights advocates, business chambers, small businesses, internet service providers, and more. We've done that in the hopes that we will be able to approach the FCC's diversity agenda from every possible angle. You are diverse in every sense of the word, except that you share a common goal to improve the opportunities of groups who have traditionally been precluded from full participation in our communications infrastructure. We in the agency intend to do everything that we can to provide you with the resources you need to address the questions that we ask you. For those of you who have served on this committee before, you'll notice that we've made some changes to how this committee will operate. It is our intention to preserve the independence of this committee while at the same time providing greater clarity of mission. We've been working closely with Chairman Rivera to identify specific issues and projects that are related to initiatives either underway or under consideration at the agency so that the work of the committee will be more closely aligned with the regulatory focus and priorities of the agency. We've already presented three issues that you've heard about, the AM station owner migration issue, the channels 5 and 6, the unlicensed spectrum examination, and the review of EEO rules, EEO practices by industry participants. More projects will be forthcoming as we deliberate with the chairman and the committee heads. The agency's internal diversity task force, which is chaired by Chief Diversity Officer Mark Lloyd and myself, and whose members hail from each of the agency's bureaus and offices, meets on a regular basis to discuss agency rulemakings and programs that impact diversity concerns. That group is an added resource for this committee in identifying internal FCC subject matter experts and making sure the work of the committee informs the agency's current priorities. Again, it is our desire to preserve the independence of this committee at all times. Accordingly, as you deliberate on your respective projects, or even as you contemplate new questions that you think the committee should examine, I encourage you to work through your committee heads, through your FCC team members, and through Chairman Rivera, who will always have a direct line to us at the agency. In closing, I'd simply like to echo what Chairman Janikowski and the commissioners said. The work that we do here is better served by your expertise and your tremendous insight. I look forward to making some real progress on these critical issues in the months to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. So just to underscore what Tom has said, we're for those of you who have been part of this committee in the past, we're operating differently. We're not going to set up these working subcommittees that we had in the past. We're basically going to use a task force approach, and that's because of the fact that the Commission will be giving us questions that they want our input on. And when we have those questions before us, I will then put together a task force and work with Tom on that. And then I'll let all of you know that we've been given a particular question, and if you've not been assigned to the task force, but you want to be because you want to work on that issue, you'll be welcome to join that task force. So that's the way we're going to operate. It's a little different than last year, but I think it will be better for us because of the fact that there was some unhappiness, to be quite candid, with the fact that the committee was serving up a lot of recommendations and they weren't being acted on. So under this new paradigm, as we're given direction, I think we have a better chance of getting our recommendations acted on by the Commission. Second thing I'd like to mention is that you should avoid speaking on behalf of the Commission, of course, and on behalf of the committee. That's something I would really appreciate. If you're contacted by the press and so forth, feel free to express your own individual opinions, but please don't speak on behalf of the Commissioner or the committee. You should, if you can possibly do it, avoid being advocates for your individual companies, position or your association's position when you're working on matters for the committee. So you park your guns at the door when you walk through it, and you give your best effort to being a member of this committee and giving your best efforts. Now, I know that's not always going to be possible, but if you would try to observe that, I think it will be best for everyone and for the work of the committee. We're not going to resolve anything at the committee level or the task force level anyway, but so I just wanted to make that that admonition. If you get contacted by Barbara or Carolyn or Nicole or Tom, please try to be responsive as you can, as quickly as you can. These folks all have day jobs. Okay, their work for the committee is extra, so we don't want to be a burden to them. We want to cooperate with them in every way we can. So help them by not requiring them to follow up with you 2 and 3 times in terms of whether you're going to attend the meeting or not, or if you're going to participate by phone, etc. I'd really appreciate that. I think that's about all the things I wanted to cover here. Right now I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Blackwell, who heads up the Native American work here at the FCC. Jeff? Jeff, by the way, is a former member of this committee. So welcome back.
I really just wanted to thank you very much for the invite to make some brief remarks here. I wanted to add my voice to those both congratulating you and welcoming you back. And as a veteran of the committee, I really do know the important work. I share the view of the chairman that this is a big deal. I too also want to say that I feel very comfortable and excited that Barbara has returned. And I know that with Carolyn and Nicole, you have a very good team. This committee, with respect to Native Americans, with respect to tribal nations, has forwarded certain recommendations that have been critically important for our work at the Commission. I never thought that I would be the fellow that would be helping to implement those recommendations. Probably should have thought a little bit more about that, but it is critically important, your input, and I hope that it will be deliberate, critical, and proactive. The role of the Office of Native Affairs and Policy is to advise the chairman and the commissioners, all of the offices and bureaus on matters that impact tribal nations, the lands of American Indian tribes, Alaska Native villages, and Native Hawaiians. Whereas at a point in time in the distant, very quickly distant past, the Commission used to see Native issues as being a small subset of the issues across this entire agency. Now they're pervasive throughout. Our office has been very busy, and under the leadership of Chairman Janikowski, with the long-time dedication of Commissioner Copps, and with all of the bureaus and offices, there is genuinely a new way of doing Native business at the FCC. And it is true that this committee also has taken up Native issues, and I hope that you will continue to. I hope that our office can continue to play a role as a resource, work with both Barbara and Thomas's office. I think it should be said that both of their respective offices, Barbara and Thomas, they each have offered their professional staff to join us in our work as we travel actually into Indian country. Our challenge on tribal lands is perhaps where the digital divide falls hardest in the United States. Our latest decennial census indicates that there's only a 67.9% telephone penetration rate in homes on tribal lands. Much more troubling evidence also indicates that there is less than a 10% broadband penetration rate on tribal lands. So we really have our work cut out for us, and we hope that you will assist us. We play a role, along with many other offices here, on the FCC's home team on diversity, and we look forward to continuing to be involved in that. I too want to keep my office door open to you. I hope that you will look on us as a resource. I am just very excited that this organization has been rechartered and that there are so many dedicated organizations and individuals here. I know that because I see former colleagues from the last time I was at the FCC, former colleagues from when I was working in Indian country, even had a hand in hiring one of the folks who's now on the committee. Maxie, I hear, is on the phone. So I know that from organization to organization, you have a great capability and a great commitment, and that you can help us be transformative for all of the opportunities for all peoples of color. I will say that I hope that we can also continue to work to be a conduit as Native entities look to engage your individual organizations as well. So as those opportunities open up, please look at us as a resource for that as well. So thank you very much, Chairman Rivera, and congratulations. Welcome back.
Thank you. All right, I want to move right into the recommendations of the, or status reports from the task forces. And first off is Nicole Turner-Lee, and her task force is dealing with Wi-Fi technology. So Nicole, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Chairman. Good afternoon, Barbara. Good afternoon, everyone that is here on this esteemed committee. And thank you also for the invitation to have myself participating. The committee that I speak for today was focused on Wi-Fi technology with a particular focus on unlicensed spectrum and how those technologies can enable small entrepreneurs, women, and minorities. And so before I start, I'd like to introduce members of that task force. Donna Epps, who is from Verizon, Carla Ballard, who's from One Economy, Eric Broyles is from McGree, Jose Marquez, who is from Latinos in Science and Technology Association, Nicole with the E, McGinnis from the FCC, and Jackie Clary from MMTC has served as our rapporteur. I'd like to just put out there, yes, we were kind of overachievers and we were planning to give you all handouts today, but quickly Barbara reeled us back in, so I think that actually speaks to the urgency of what we all have been charged to do here, which is to get some work done. But I want to, at least for the purpose of this conversation of the task force, to just set up what we did discuss in hopes that we'll bring forth some proposals in the coming weeks. The issue that we particularly looked at was around how spectrum policies can accommodate both consumer demand and enable innovation, which I think is a very pertinent conversation that was mentioned in the National Broadband Plan. And what our committee basically assessed was if we address the spectrum shortages that we're currently experiencing now that is adversely affecting commercial wireless service, and we look at ways to integrate more people of color into this ecosystem, that we might be able to find ways to be more creative in terms of inclusion. So that was much of our conversation, our initial conversation that we had as a task force. And I would say that, you know, between the National Broadband Plan and some of the private sector initiatives that we've seen, the recent sale of spectrum between Verizon and other cable companies, that problem solving will continue to evolve on the private sector side. But the real challenge is how do we leverage unlicensed spectrum, particularly for the purposes of freeing that bandwidth up for women, minorities, and small entrepreneurs, some of which are represented on our committee as well. For those of you, just a point of clarification, because this is something that we had to struggle with in our committee, what is unlicensed spectrum? And as you all know, it enables this wireless common because it is public and free. It does not, and it also facilitates innovations from remote controls and baby monitors. As one industry blog noted, it is probably the facilitator to the Internet of Things. So the unlicensed spectrum, for many of us, holds opportunity for marginalized groups, particularly when we're looking at ownership and innovation. The questions that were charged to us that I think I want to share as part of preparation of our where we're going with our proposals were essentially around these three areas. What are the resources needed for small entrepreneurs, women, and minorities to take full advantage of the business opportunities and the unlicensed spectrum technologies such as Wi-Fi? Has the past development of unlicensed spectrum technologies created opportunities for small and diverse businesses? Do diverse communities have access to Wi-Fi? And for what purposes are diverse communities using Wi-Fi? And overwhelmingly, as I get into the last portion of my comments, there's a lot more work to do in answering those questions. We were able to scratch the surface in our initial conversation, and we look forward to doing more. But those areas have both a consumer side in terms of the benefit to diverse communities, as well as an ownership side or an entrepreneurial side that our committee will continue to look at. As a task force, we've already discussed several items that I'll share for this committee for your consideration, not as a vote, but just as ideas that might generate additional conversation at the end of my presentation. One, we need to find ways that we can leverage unlicensed spectrum to activate small, less capital-intensive business ventures, particularly for these targeted groups that we're looking at, small entrepreneurs, women, and minorities. We need to look at unlicensed spectrum to enable experimentation of new products and services. What the unlicensed spectrum space actually offers to many of these groups is this ability to experiment and to pilot new ideas and opportunities that they would not be able to do because of the capital intensity that's in the licensed spectrum market. And then 3, promote community pilots and other innovative projects that might support a super Wi-Fi connection that would enable schools, libraries, and community centers. And that's something that we spoke a lot about in our task force meeting. You know, how do we enable many of the recommendations that came out of the National Broadband Plan, where every child has access to an e-book or netbook to take to school? And those are things that we'd like to look at in terms of leveraging unlicensed spectrum. One additional consideration that I'd also put forth to this committee that came out is that it's, at the end of the day, it's unlicensed spectrum which is important, but it's the devices that actually run on that unlicensed spectrum. So another point of consideration for our committee is, in what way can we enable these communities to get into the device marketplace? And what are some of the barriers to entry that might have to be addressed to ensure that that experimentation of new devices for communities could actually happen, whether within communities of color or mainstream communities? So our task force, again, at the risk of not sounding like overachievers, which we were, our task force hopes to refine those recommendations for this committee, make some suggestions and proposals for your consideration for vote, and come back and hopefully engage this committee into more conversation, particularly those that help us to bridge the digital divide as we know it today, and leverage the unlicensed spectrum to impact, I think, what many of us in this room care about: employment, education, healthcare activities, and civic engagement activities. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will leave it at that. If there's anyone who has any comments or questions, I'm not sure if you can direct it to us now, or we're also available via email, but we'll be meeting over the next few weeks to actually refine those proposals for this committee.
Outstanding report. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Very impressive. Does any, yes, Andy.
I hope this microphone is working.
Yeah.
This is a sensitive question, but I wonder what's appropriate here. I don't want to beat around the bush about it either. There are legislative proposals that are at a very active stage that would tie the Commission's hands dramatically with respect to the availability of spectrum for unlicensed use.
Mm-hmm.
My question, Mr. Chairman, is it appropriate for this committee to make an expression of the importance and the value of reserving spectrum for unlicensed use in some way that could be a resolution or something?
Well, so long as it went to the Commission as opposed to elsewhere. Mm-hmm. I think that's our job, and if we wanted to adopt such a resolution and send it to the Commission, where they would do with it what they thought best, I don't have any problem with that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? All right, Nicole, thanks very much. David's task force was working on EEO enforcement.
Members, is this on?
It'll be on in a minute.
The members of our task force, can you hear? Still can't hear. We'll switch them.
Now it's gone. Now it is.
Okay, now it works. It's a miracle. Our Sylvia Strobel, Jason Legria representing Karen Narasaki, Rudy Brioche, Andy Schwartzman, Jessica Gonzalez, and myself. Darissa Griffin from MMTC was our rapporteur. The charge presented to us, I'll read it, is what communications and communications-related companies, both subject to FCC EEO regulations and non-regulated, implement company-wide policies that encourage diverse recruiting and hiring. How and to what extent do these policies, even those implemented by non-regulated entities, advance the Commission's goal of viewpoint diversity? To that end, what are the recruiting and hiring models of these companies, and how do their policies exemplify these goals? What are these companies doing to advance diversity interests in programming and hiring in their respective markets? What are their internal EEO and external outreach policies? How do these policies advance diversity interests? On November 14th, we had an initial meeting looking at 3 elements that are germane to those issues: the application of EEO to these some licensed, some unregulated industries in wireless, wireline, and broadband, the effectiveness of current enforcement mechanisms, particularly audits, and the question of data transparency. With respect to the main elements of the question, the broad question that's been presented to us, there's a great deal of data that already exists. Many of you know of the 2 reports, the investigative reports done by the San Jose Mercury News in 2010. Blacks, Latinos, and women lose ground at Silicon Valley tech companies. And tech firms argue race, gender data are trade secrets, and talks about how that information that was elicited in this study was so difficult to come by, and much of it was never able to be produced. A book that MMTC produced this July called Minorities in High-Tech Employment that drills down into the economic impact of these disparities in industries that are about 1/10 of the economy. A study that John Templeton, I don't know if he's here today, he was going to try to make it. John, are you here? Releases every year, True Labor of Love. This report is actually coming out today. It is called Silicon Ceiling 11, Equal Opportunity in High Technology, a comprehensive annual national study of African American involvement at cutting edge fields. He finds that among other things, African Americans were generally twice as likely to lose their job in the information industries as to gain a new one, drilling down and using census data, and attributes much of this apparently to abuse of the H-1B program. They actually did testing of that program to see whether qualified candidates would be considered, and many were not, even though they were qualified for these positions. That's a path-breaking report just being released today. And finally, in the broadcast arena, NABJ does a diversity census every year. Bob Butler, another person who's just invested so much personal time for this labor of love, the NABJ Diversity Census 2011, released this September, finds that, and of course, as we know, the commission doesn't produce this data, so it had to be drilled out one station at a time for over 200 stations by hand, by just having NABJ members on the phone telling who works where in what jobs, has found that minority representation in the news gathering business is low and stagnant, about less than 8% African American, less than 4% Hispanics, 1% Asian American, and out of 1,157 managers, 1 was Native American. This is certainly discouraging. The questions that have been presented really lend themselves, with this data being a starting point, to a national survey that will need to be undertaken in order to satisfy what's expected of us in this charge. And therefore, we'll undertake to design an instrument, formulate a sample of companies, and undertake to do a survey as best we can to elicit some of these best practices, some of the impact of some of these programs, and thus get a sense from there of whether regulatory or non-regulatory means should be developed to address some of the issues that have been raised in the data that we already have. Mr. Chairman, that's our report.
All right, thank you, David, and thank you, your task force. Appreciate all that work. Anybody have any questions or comments for David? Yes, yes, Diane.
David, you may remember from the last incorporation of this group, a lot of discussion, and the EEO subcommittee task force at that time put forth some questions as it related to not just recruitment and hiring, but rather promotion within the industry. And if we're ever going to get to ownership, CEOs for minorities and women of color, it's getting them sufficiently experienced in the industry and promoting them. Has there been any thought to looking at that aspect of EEO, and is that something that could be incorporated into the discussion? Because, as you know, all of the 16 criteria that the EEO rules encompass now are all about recruiting and hiring, not promotion.
That's right. And for those who were here in earlier incarnations of the Diversity Committee, in 2004, the Diversity Committee adopted unanimously a recommendation looking at the broadcasting industry specifically, because it was and continues to be shrinking in size, and asking whether and recommending to the Commission that it enhance the attention paid in its EEO enforcement efforts to mentoring and job retention as opposed to only recruitment, since given the changes in the industry. That recommendation is still pending. There was a book on public-private partnerships and best practices produced by the committee at that time, posted in the Commission's website. So certainly that information needs to be updated 7 years having passed, and it will be a part of the survey that we'll conduct.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I got a comment, Chair.
Yes, Mr. Roberts.
Yeah, one other quick question. I know you talked about the issue of a new gathering in the broadcasting industry. Did you all look at the issue of programming and how the people who look at TV and listen to radio today are impacted by what they see on the television or on cable? And I guess my particular concern is, as we get larger media companies that both broadcasters and provider of programming, if the impression is that there's lack of visibility of women and minority in the programming area, that then impacts upon what we do as free over-the-air broadcasters.
There's been a great deal of empirical research done on that subject, really from the 70s through the mid-90s, some of which was relied upon in the Metro Broadcasting decision in 1989. There has been some since, not that much in the last 5 years. I don't think that we have the resources to produce that kind of research on matters that are inherently qualitative to some extent. Hoping that some of the scholars on the committee, Dr. Schmidt and others, may be able to identify foundations or other sources of support for the independent production of that kind of research, because it certainly is critical, and it's critical also for the reason that Commissioner Kopp spoke of earlier, in order to be able to document that the purpose of these rules is consistent with the way that they're applied.
Anything else for David? All right, David, we'll look forward to the survey and the next report.
Thank you.
Our next task force is chaired by Susan Patrick, who unfortunately is unable to be with us today. Who did that task force identify anyone to give a report?
I'm on the task force. We did not. I saw Susan sent out an email asking someone to provide a report. I was hoping someone else would volunteer.
Oh, well.
But what we did do was look at the questions that were posed to the task force, and realized that we needed a lot of information that none of us in the task force has. Susan has reached out to the NAB. The NAB said that they're in the process of doing some studies related to the question about channels 5 and 6. So they think that they're going to have some information for us sometime soon. That was, I think, the first step that we thought we should take to see what information is actually already out there for us before we go any further. So we expect to have some information from the NAB in the near future, and we'll be able to come back with a report at that time.
Okay. Thanks very much. Any questions for that task force? Mr. Winston? Yeah, Jorge.
There are some aspects of the charge that are a bit tricky, and I'm sort of sending that signal out now, such as where the question is posed to us about how such a migration from AM stations to the FM band available would impact competition in full power FM. That's a really challenging question, and I'm not sure that given the resources we have that we can say anything with much certainty. The question of how it might affect incumbent minority owners in full power FM is a very important question, and one that I think we may operationalize as a more important question to address, depending on how we can get a handle on the competition part.
All right. Well, if we need to go back to the commission to refine the question or to get clarity or to get some guidance, we can certainly do that. Anything else for that task force? Well, thank you very much. We look forward to an update from you all. Now, if any of you who have not been working on any of those issues would like to do so, if your interest has been piqued by these reports, please let me know if you have any interest, and we'll get you hooked up with the chairs of those task forces. My contact information is in your packet, so feel free to send me an email or give me a call. All right, if there's nothing else for the task force report, we're going to move into some reports from two great companies, AT&T and Comcast Universal. We have several people from those organizations who have graciously agreed to give us some time today and let us know what these companies are doing in the way of promoting diversity, both in employment and in their procurement practices. I thought this would be particularly interesting for the committee to understand as a result of the work we're doing in the EEO area particularly. But the procurement area is also very, very important to the folks that we care about. So with that, I'm going to ask Mr. Javier Williams, who's Senior Vice President, Public Sector and Healthcare for AT&T, to please hold forth. Mr. Williams, thanks for being here, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. I want to thank everyone for the opportunity to speak today at the FCC Diversity Advisory Committee meeting. A lot of times, and for those of you who you'll figure it out by the end of the presentation, I'm a sales guy. And it's very interesting to always hear what's going on from a policy standpoint and trying to make sure that it's aligned with what we're trying to do from a customer standpoint. My task here today is to talk a little bit about, at AT&T, why we believe and how we believe that diversity and inclusion help drive innovation, success, and things of that nature that allows us to take a wider perspective of our overall business. We applaud the Commission's foresight in focusing on this topic and creating this committee. Today, I'm going to talk about two things around diversity and inclusion, employment and procurement, as the Chairman mentioned. Before I speak on these specific elements, I think it's important to try to set up a little bit of context, and I'm going to try to get this to work. Yes. At AT&T, we weave diversity and inclusion into every facet of our business, from our board to our leadership team to our workforce and into our supply chain. Diversity and inclusion will always be top priorities, no less than any other business imperative we have. We apply the same rigor to diversity that's applied to the rest of our business. We start with building our senior leadership team around diversity and focus our board on it. 2 of our 3 operating CEOs are people of color. Of our 12 board members, 1 is Hispanic, 2 are African American, and 4 are women. 2 board committees, Human Resources and Public Policy, have oversight responsibility for diversity at our company. Most important, we've created a structure to develop a strong pipeline of diverse leaders. Our chairman, Mr. Stevenson, has appointed a Chief Diversity Officer to oversee efforts and results. Mr. Stevenson chairs an Inclusion Council to ensure accountability and results. The council meets quarterly to review the company's progress against diversity and inclusion goals. Part of our senior executives' compensation is based on achieving diversity results. Our workforce is diverse. Our overall 50-state workforce is 40% female and 38% people of color. If you look at our management population, it's also diverse. It's 40% female and 31% people of color. When you look at hiring in 2011 through June, 41% of our new hires were female and 46% were people of color. We achieved these results because we recruit at a wide range of conferences and to ensure we are reaching out to a diverse population of individuals. We also post on job boards and websites to broaden our reach. Our employees are engaged in creating an inclusive environment at AT&T where we have what we call our employee resource groups. There are 11 of them with over 13,000 members. You could see some of them listed on your sheet, and I'll try to give you a flavor of some of what we have from an ERG standpoint. Asian Pacific Islanders, Filipino Americans, Hispanic employees, the Intertribal Council of ATT employees, individuals with disabilities, young professionals, Asian American employees, women of AT&T. We also have an African American group and then a veteran group that we've just started, and it is now the largest group that we have within our company. We provide significant benefits to the members of our employee resource groups. We have an annual conference where employees are able to network with senior leaders, attend seminars and workshops to assist in career development. Some of the topics that we had in our past conference include negotiation skills, skills of the future around sales, marketing and technology, and career exploration. Additionally, we provide an ERG Leadership Academy for all of our national officers of the ERG groups. It's a 2.5-day curriculum designed and delivered by our T University staff and is focused on assisting ERG leaders in building their management skills. We're very proud of the awards that we receive, that we recognize and recognize our accomplishments and efforts. I'm going to try to read a couple of these to you, but y'all could probably read them better than me. We were ranked number 4 of the top 50 companies from a Diversity Inc. magazine standpoint, the number 1 company from Hispanic Business magazine, number 2 in diversitybusiness.com of the top 50 employers, number 11 from Workforce Diversity Engineering and IT Professionals magazines. For Women Engineering magazine, we were number 33 of the top 50 employees. For Black Enterprise, we were named one of the top 40 companies for diversity. For the Hispanic National Bar, we were the Corporate Partner of the Year. For the National Association of Female Executives, we ranked number 32 in terms of their rankings for top companies. For the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, we were the Corporation of the Year. For Latino Style Magazine, we were number 7 of their top 12 companies of the year. And for the Council of Urban Professionals, we received the Corporate Diversity and Inclusion Leadership Award, things that we're all very, very proud of. Moving to diversity, supplier diversity. Since 1968, AT&T's Global Supplier Diversity Program has promoted, increased, and improved the quality of the overall participation of minority, women, and disabled veteran-owned businesses, disabled veteran-owned business enterprises in our corporate supply chain. AT&T has one of the most aggressive supplier diversity goals in the industry, working to reach 21.5% of its spending with diverse suppliers. Our diversity goals are 15% with minority business enterprises, 5% with women business enterprises, and 1.5% with disabled veteran business enterprises. In 2010, AT&T increased its supplier diversity spend by 34% to $9.2 billion, representing 18.8% of our total spend. Again, that's against a goal of 21.5%. So we still have a little bit of work to do. AT&T is a member of the $1 Billion Roundtable, a supplier diversity think tank of corporations that spend more than $1 billion annually with diverse companies. We're only one of 17 companies across the nation that qualify at this level. AT&T is a member of the National Minority Supplier Diversity Council, serving as an active member of the National Council and its 18 regional purchasing councils around the country. NMSDC recently recognized AT&T's supplier diversity leadership, naming us the Corporation of the Year this year in 2011. Additionally, we're a member of the Women Business Enterprise National Council, WeBank, where we serve on the national board. And AT&T supports several supplier diversity development programs around the country. And in recent years, we have provided more than $1 million in support of programs to help minority business entrepreneurs become more competitive and successful in free enterprise system. The programs and scholarships are granted to leading-edge business schools to provide expert coaching and tangible business benefits to incumbent and prospective diversity suppliers. One such example is the Management Development Program for Entrepreneurs of the Howard Price Center at UCLA's Anderson School, among others. We are honored that these efforts have been recognized nationally. Again, some awards that we'd like to call out. Again, you can read them as well as I can, but Diversity Inc. ranked AT&T the #2 company in its top 10 companies for supplier diversity. DiversityBusiness.com ranked us #2 in the top 50 companies for multicultural business. We were named Corporation of the Year by the National Minority Supplier Development Council for our exemplary achievements in inclusion of Asian, Black, Hispanic, and Native American-owned providers in our supply chain. Veteranpreneur magazine named AT&T one of the 10 best corporations for veteran-owned businesses in 2006, 2007, 2009, and 2010. We were named to the list for our unwavering support of veteran-owned businesses. Only 9 other companies have ever received this recognition. WeBank recognized AT&T as America's top corporation for women business enterprise. We have earned this recognition for 11 consecutive years since the list's inception. I hope I've given you a sense of some of our commitment to diversity, but we know we still have a long ways to go. I look forward to hearing from my friends at Comcast and see if I could steal shamelessly from them on ways that we can continue to improve diversity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Williams. It's a very impressive report. And now we are going to move right on to the Comcast Universal presentation. Maria Arias and Craig Robinson are here from Comcast, and thank you very much for giving us a little bit of your time today.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Maria Arias, and I'd just like to give you a little bit of my background. I'm actually an industry veteran, having worked in telecommunications and cable broadband since 1993. And Comcast, my experience with Comcast started in 2007, about 4.5 years ago. I'm actually a product of an executive boot camp program in which our West Division cable president hired me to train me how to run cable systems. So for the past 4 years before I took this position, I ran our cable systems. And when Comcast decided to establish a corporate diversity department, I raised my hand, and I'm very excited to be at the corporate level now, helping drive our diversity initiatives.
And good afternoon again. I'm Craig Robinson, Executive Vice President and Chief Diversity Officer for NBC Universal. I've spent 16 years at NBC Universal, most recently 9 years as President and General Manager of 2 different television stations at NBC. And we are very excited to be here. And I would just say to Xavier, if I could ask Mr. Chairman if the next time if we could not go after AT&T. We have a lot to be proud of, but that's a very impressive track record.
Thank you. We would like to speak with you this afternoon about our company's commitment to diversity, because diversity is part of our culture. We're committed to diversity not just because it's the right thing to do, but it's a core principle of doing our business, community by community. We're going to share with you this afternoon how we've expanded our diversity initiatives in 5 focus areas: governance, workforce, procurement, programming, and community investment. From a governance perspective, we have dedicated leadership who support our diversity initiatives. In terms of our internal leadership, our last 2 additions to our Comcast Corporation Board of Directors are diverse. Jonathan Rogers joined us in September, the former CEO and President of TV1, and Eduardo Mestre, Vice Chairman of Evercore Partners. With the addition of these 2 new board members, our board is now 1/3 diverse. We also looked at our organizational structures. At the corporate level, as I just mentioned, we have a brand new diversity department. NBC Universal, Craig Robinson is here today, and he is new to the position, and he is reestablishing his department. In addition, within each company, we have diversity steering committees that are comprised of senior leaders who oversee our diversity and inclusion initiatives.
Well, we too have sought the counsel and the expertise of external advisors, and if you'll take a look at the end of our presentation, we have actually a roster there. In 2011, we formed the Comcast NBC Universal External Joint Diversity Council, and this group is comprised of 40 business and civic leaders representing women, Hispanics, African Americans, Asian Americans, Native Americans, the LGBT community, veterans, and people with disabilities. And I think, as we mentioned, Karen Narasaki is a member, as is Javier, who we thank for not being in Bali today. As a council, we leverage a number of tools to keep track of our progress. One is the Master Strategic Plan, which articulates our vision and our strategic approach at the council. We also work with a benchmark study, which has set our baselines so that we can track our progress, because I think, as we all know, the best way to drive growth is by measurement. We have at NBC Universal just completed our annual meetings with the minority coalitions, where the discussion is focused on diversity in front of and behind the camera. You're probably familiar with these meetings. They've been going on for about 11 years. And their assessments are forthcoming before the end of the year for all the networks. Moving to workforce. Our company-wide initiatives are aimed at selecting, developing, and as Diane mentioned, certainly promoting diverse talent. In the area of diversity planning, Comcast has a new employee engagement diversity team, which is implementing a multi-year strategy to increase workforce diversity. In the area of talent acquisition and management, NBC recently created the position of Senior Vice President and Chief Talent Officer. This is a job that did not exist before in the company, who will oversee recruiting, pipeline programs, and executive training, again, with a strong focus on diversity and with a strong focus on promotion of our diverse talent. Comcast and NBC Universal both require diverse slates for all vice president and above positions before the position can be filled. And our rosters of recruiting firms include a number of new Hispanic, African American, and women-owned firms to help us increase these numbers.
As we've discussed a little bit earlier today and heard, it's all about ensuring that minorities are promoted and get to the C-suite. At both Comcast and NBC Universal, we're very much focused on our leadership programs and ensuring that we have participation by top diverse talent. At Comcast, our premier programs are the Executive Leadership Forum and Fundamentals of Leadership, among many others. At NBC Universal, we have a leadership mentoring program and an NBC News Diversity Leadership Program, both which are signature programs. Again, as Craig just mentioned, it's all about measurement and the numbers. We provide execution and accountability through quarterly assessments. We evaluate what we indicated we would do as part of our tactics and strategies in our Master Strategic Plan and our benchmarks, and we meet quarterly to gauge and assess. In terms of procurement, we continue to build a supplier diversity program that creates sustainable relationships with and creates opportunities for diverse suppliers. Each company has existing robust supplier diversity programs. In 2010, Comcast and NBC Universal did business with over 3,000 minority and women business enterprises. Our companies are focused very much on improving and expanding that base. We are increasing the outreach within the supplier diversity community. We have worked with the Chambers of Commerce for the National Gay and Lesbian Association, the United States Pan-American Asian Association, the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and the National Black Chamber of Commerce. We also are a member of the National Minority Supplier Diversity Council and the Women Business Enterprise National Council. In addition to partnering and working with our Tier 1 vendors, the large companies, we are also actively looking at our Tier 2 programs and encouraging our major vendors to have subcontractors and contractors that are diverse.
We're also expanding our procurement opportunities in professional service firms such as legal and advertising and the financial service areas. For example, in legal, we have Comcast's $1 million commitment to the Inclusion Initiative. In advertising, we have a relationship with Burrell Communications, and in the financial sector, our relationship with the United Bank of Philadelphia. And we're also working to increase our diversity in procurement through diversity summits, which we heard a little bit about earlier today, because working with and connecting with these organizations and also educating some of these companies on how to do business with us is key to our growth. Comcast co-hosted their first annual Supplier Diversity Outreach event in September of 2011, and NBC Universal hosted a production services supplier diversity fair in November of 2011 at the NBC Universal lot.
Earlier this afternoon, we heard a lot of discussion about the concern in terms of ethnic programming and how we can increase that. We are launching more diverse content and promoting programming diversity in various ways. First, and very significantly, we are launching 10 brand new independent networks over the next 8 years. 8 of those networks will be diverse, 4 African American and 4 Hispanic. The Phase 1 includes an American Hispanic operated English language network by July of 2012. 2 channels that will be substantially owned by African Americans will be launched by January 28, 2013. And we have additional networks being launched within the several years thereafter. We are currently evaluating the Phase 1 proponents. We've also significantly expanded our distribution of ethnic programming in the African American, Asian, and Hispanic space. In terms of our African American programming, we've expanded the launch of the Africa Channel in Chicago, Detroit, and DC. TV One is now part of our Xfinity TV lineup in Chicago and Miami. We now have Black Cinema on demand available and refreshed monthly. For our Asian American customers, we have a new carriage agreement with Mnet, the only nationally distributed network who's targeting Asian Americans that's in the English language. Recently, in the Pacific Northwest, we launched MYX TV, which is a music lifestyle network aimed at Asian Americans. We also have Cinema Asia America that is up and running and refreshed monthly. For Hispanic American programming, we've expanded the distribution of 9 new programming services to 17 million subscribers. We have also launched a package of 40 to 60 Spanish language channels in all our major markets. We will also be launching Hispanic Cinema on demand by the end of January 2012.
At both companies, we're expanding our multi-platform programming offerings as well. Comcast recently launched XfinityTV.com en Espanol with over 500 choices. This year, NBC carried the primetime broadcast of the 2011 Alma Awards with special online features. And NBC News is currently developing and about to launch an English language news website with a Hispanic focus, NBCLatino.com. This will be similar to the Grio.com, which some of you may be familiar with in the African American space. In our own stations group, NBC Universal is promoting diversity in partnerships with locally focused nonprofit news organizations in New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, and Los Angeles. And some of those were just announced today, I believe, in the press. Now, obviously, a big part of our focus at NBC Universal is increasing diversity in front of and behind the cameras. We heard that from a number of people today, including Commissioner Clyburn. NBC Universal has more than 50 pipeline and career development programs company-wide. Following the transaction, there's been a renewed attention to these programs, and we're seeking opportunities to expand existing programs as well as to launch new programs. And we're particularly proud, as an example, of an existing program which we have just increased. It's called the Diverse Writers Program. I'd like to tell you just a little bit more about it. This is a program where we take scripted shows at NBC, which are already fully staffed, and NBC Corporate provides an additional staff writer who is diverse on each and every one of these shows, above and beyond, again, the show budgets. So this is an additional staffed diverse writer. This year, we expanded that initiative to our USA and Sci-Fi networks, which meant an increased 17 diverse writers on scripted shows. We've also expanded our Sports Associate program to the Golf Channel and Versus, which made sense for us after the acquisition. And Universal Pictures recently signed a 3-year production agreement with DePass Jones Entertainment.
Community investment. We are increasing our community investment in organizations that serve diverse communities. At Comcast and NBC, we are increasing our philanthropic giving to minority-led and minority-serving institutions by 10% for each of the next 3 years. We have launched Comcast Internet Essentials program, which many of you may have heard about, to directly confront the digital divide by promoting affordable internet access at a discounted price computer and training to low-income households. Another very significant initiative that we have is that we establish an opportunity fund, a $20 million venture capital fund. We are receiving proposals from all different walks of life. We have proposals dealing with e-commerce, social networking, software, content, and education. In addition, part of the opportunity fund is being used in partnership with Dream It Ventures in order to develop a minority accelerator program. We are providing seed funding for 5 companies, and in fact, our initial 5 participant companies are making their business proposals tomorrow in Philadelphia. Should any of them be selected, they have the opportunity to apply for additional funding. In sum, our companies, Comcast and NBC Universal together, are committed to diversity. It has always been part of our culture.
As a 16-year NBC Universal employee, I can tell you that I am truly excited and I'm truly encouraged by the energy that I see our combined leadership bringing to these diversity and inclusion efforts at Comcast NBC Universal. And personally, I will tell you, as the child of an African-American father and a Chinese-American mother who has been given a great deal of opportunity at NBC Universal, I find it imperative to make sure that others have the same opportunity that I've enjoyed. Thank you so much for allowing us to come today, and we look forward to coming back again and reporting on our progress.
Great. Thank you very much. Wonderful report. Thanks so much. I want to get everybody out of here by 4 o'clock, so I'm not going to, I've already missed that. Thank you for not pointing that out. So I'm not going to open it up for questions. However, I'm sure that our speakers would stick around if you if you had any questions for them. I would say that I'm going to try to meet quarterly. It depends on the workflow that we get from the commission. It also depends on the availability of this room, which is in high demand. So working with Tom and Barbara, we will try to find a date sometime in March. So watch your email for that. And unless there's anything else, yes?
One further shout out, if you permit me. Ron Gracer, stand up. Ron is the guy for every meeting we've had, and hopefully for the future, has done all the packets, all the name tags, everything, all the administrative stuff, and most importantly, he's the guy who does the paperwork that gets you guys through security.
Thanks, Ron. Appreciate it. Yeah, Sherman.
Going to be the form of, I'm not sure if it's new business, but Commissioner Rivera, you've heard Commissioner McDowell make references to the 4A initiative, yes, and its importance, particularly for the short-term and long-term viability of African American and Hispanic broadcasters, because it addresses the whole issue of no urban and no Hispanic dictates, a practice that costs or rob African American and Hispanic broadcasters over minimally $250 million in revenue annually. And having had the opportunity to work closely with Commissioner McDowell and former Commissioner Adelstein in that area when I was an industry expert to the commission, now in the full committee, we're at a what I call a real important tipping point in terms of how the advertising industry is being an active participating, helping to eliminate this practice. What I would say is that what I would hope that the committee will consider is to continue to have its finger on the pulse of what's continuing to happen in this area, because one, it's vitally important, and there's what I would consider to be a growth opportunity, particularly for my friends from the Hispanic communities. I'm encouraged by seeing that the representatives here today from the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Hispanic Media Coalition, there is a real opportunity for our partners on that side, including entities like NABOB and MMTC have always been active participants in this area. But I see a growth opportunity, and I certainly like to talk with you, Mr. Chairman, and my colleagues and counterparts in that area about what's upcoming in terms of an opportunity of what the advertising industry is doing to further eliminate that practice.
All right, let's do that. Yeah, give me a ring or come see me or something.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sherman. Ron, did you have something?
Mr. Chairman, first of all, I'd like to thank the industry for their very fine report about what's going on there. And as all of us probably recall, last year we did look at procurement as an issue, and we examined that in several ways in several forums. I think, though, that this year David's committee is not really addressing that, understanding that these tasks do come down from upstairs to us, and we address what's given to us. Is there a possibility that we might include in David's work some look at procurement? Is that something that we could, at least you could think about and weigh it and see if it's possible?
Yes, I'll discuss that with the
forward?
commission.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Jessica.
Hi. This is really just a process question. It might be because I'm a longtime believer in diversity, first-time member of this committee. Will we only be taking assignments from the commission, or will there be opportunities for us to work on other issues that folks around this table are interested in?
It'll be the former rather than the latter. And if you're, but as Ron has just suggested, if there's an issue that you'd like me to run up the flagpole, I can certainly do that and see whether the commission wants us to spend our resources on that issue. But it is a difference. It is a shift. It is different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Anything else? Yeah, Jim.
On that question, because it sounds a little limiting in terms of what we're being asked to do this year, and so I would hope that if people do have burning issues that they'd like to bring to the committee, they wouldn't feel constrained from doing that. And one thing that was crossing my mind, I've seen in the last couple of weeks, 2 different letters from several dozen organizations addressed to the chairman about the ownership proceeding, questioning what's going to be done in terms of minority ownership proposals in the ownership proceeding. And I was surprised that this committee wasn't asked to weigh in on that subject. And I just wondered if that has been raised informally at all with the commission about whether there is a place for us to provide some input on that subject.
No, it hasn't, but I can do that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Nicole?
Just one other thing, this is separate. The chairman, Janikowski, talked about the Connect to Compete initiative.
Yes.
And I know it's in the House of the Broadband Adoption Task Force that the commission has constituted. Will we as a committee have access to regular updates as to how that initiative is panning out over the next year?
I don't see why not. I'll raise that, though. That's a very good point. It's a very important initiative, and I'm sure the commission would be happy to let us know what's going on with it.
Yeah.
Anything else? Yes, sir.
I noticed that AT&T was saying that they had stats on disabled veterans, and we got a lot of veterans coming back from the war, and will you all have any special programs to bring those numbers up? Because those were the lowest numbers that you all had.
Could I ask you to raise that with them after we adjourn? Do you mind? Okay, great, thanks. Javier, do you have something?
If I might, just before the two organizations leave, I'd just like to add my comments. The United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce advocates on behalf of 3 million Hispanic-owned firms in this country that together generate about $425 billion in top-line revenue. First, AT&T has been a phenomenal partner of our organization in transparency. They fund our organization. But of the 131 partners, they don't even rank in the top 30. So thank you for the funding, but the reality of it is you've done a phenomenal job of including a broad swath of minority firms in your practices. And I would agree that people like Ralph de la Vega, in what arguably is perhaps your most important division, is a stellar player in the Hispanic community. So we appreciate what you've done, and while you're not all the way there, you certainly set a very high standard, and we're very appreciative of the work you've done. In the case of Comcast, I think it's a wonderful initiative that you've undertaken to bring all of the minority communities to the table. I'm part of that, and I'm thankful. Again, Comcast is a sponsor of our organization, but not a big one. Again, not in the top quartile, but we appreciate it, and we more than anything appreciate the opportunity to participate in a dialogue that I think is helpful to all America. Interestingly, when we came to this commission, and I spoke to the chairman about our own program, discouragingly, the chairman himself immediately went to Telemundo and assumed that our program would run on a Spanish language network. And it was actually Paula Madison of NBC Universal who insisted that our television program should be on American networks, because while we advocate on behalf of Hispanic-owned firms, every job we create, every tax bill we pay, every person we employ goes to benefit this American economy. And Mr. Reed was very helpful in helping us make our case. Good. And we appreciate the work that this commission has done. And while I'm new to it, I certainly appreciate the opportunity to sit in, and I hope that I can be of some help to you as you move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Javier. All right, if there's nothing else, I'm going to let you guys go. And thank you all for taking your time to be here today. I look forward to working with you. I think we're going to do some great things. So we'll be adjourned until sometime in March, and you'll be getting a notification of when we'll have that meeting.
Thank you all very much. Please leave your name tags and your, so Ron doesn't have to do another one for next time. Thank you. Thank you all for coming.